Hey guys! This is part 10 of What If Naruto Was in Bloodborne. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 36, Strangely Domestic. Kakuria stared at Naruto's apartment. You live like this? She asked, and the blonde could not help but be a little offended. He'd even had a kage bunshin clean up, sort of, mostly. It's tiny, and not high up enough. We should have our den in that tower, or on that face mountain. Naruto rolled his eyes. He should have known the state of it wasn't the issue. We can't just live in those places, you know. He grumbled, by the way, I sometimes spend time in the dream, with my body just there. He explained with a gesture to his bed. That thing you said you don't do that only ninjas do? It helps me stay sane, I think. Kakuria stared blankly at him. So? She asked. Naruto realized getting the Mizuchi to leave him alone would be impossible. So, just make sure no one disturbs my body when I'm resting like that. He requested with a shrug. The yokai's eyes widened before they set to a determined stare. So this room is off limits to ninjas when you sleep, I understand. Naruto was not entirely sure she did understand, but she seemed to understand enough to do as he requested, so he nodded. Thanks, Kakuria-chan. He said gratefully before he sat down on his bed. Also, if I teleport away, don't panic, I'll be back. He assured. He wasn't quite ready to explain the depths to Kakuria, namely because she couldn't get there as easily as he could. With that, the blonde lay down and rang his little silver bell, and in the moment of a blink he was in the dream, being greeted by the doll with a warm smile. Something seemed off, however, but it took him a moment to notice what it was. One of his tombstones was cracked. Ninjo-chan, what happened here? Naruto asked. Something disturbed that resting place. I apologize for not knowing what it was. Naruto nodded. It's okay, I'd never blame you for not knowing something. He assured her. From what he'd read, he was sure some short-tempered and ill-mannered Ryoshi liked to shoot the messenger when the doll was less than useful. He preferred to discard those journals and think of them as Yaju who retained the ability to write and dream, briefly. He ignored the double-think of a Yaju that could dream. The tombstone lead to the depths, the operating theater, the first place he'd dreamed. The place he'd become something other than a ninja, where the old blood had been ministered. Regardless of spending a month away, he was sure the Yaju normally avoided that place, which left one culprit. Kimimaro. Naruto muttered the name of a loose end he'd never dealt with. He'd hoped the older teen would die down there on his own. Orochimaru had apparently dropped the boy off and never returned. Enko hadn't mentioned being in pain while they were gone, and even while drunk had mostly asked how Naruto's mission had gone, oddly enough. Knowing what the problem was didn't instantly solve said problem, however. Naruto would need to backtrack from deeper, intercept Kimimaro, and finish him off. Now that the blonde knew Orochimaru wasn't around, he was confident it was possible to deal with the bone user. He was stronger, and had new abilities and everything. I guess I'll visit Koiki-chan tomorrow, Naruto decided before he walked up to the weapons workbench, put on his hat, left his Hitite on under it for extra protection, and pulled Nokojuritsu from a scroll. I missed this, he muttered to himself before he descended into the depths through the other dungeon tombstone that had not been cracked. The upside of backtracking is that Naruto actually found some quicksilver bullets, and some more of those serrated shuriken. He decided to mentally categorize the more knife-shaped straight-bladed shuriken as Bashuriken. Mostly because Nokujira Shuriken would take too long to say if he needed to say it, and he was wondering about the benefits of making a larger serrated shuriken. Those books on weapon crafts had actually sunk in and interested him. Talking with Tenten about weapons for a bit had probably only kindled this budding interest, but Naruto focused on the sound he heard ahead, of a Yaju falling dead. Too quiet for any of the usual denizens to have done it, as softly as if they'd laid down. Unfortunately for Kimimaro, even soft sounds echoed in the stone dungeons. Naruto's hearing was good, and acting like a ninja in the depths ironically gave him away. The blonde remained still. He knew his prey would come to him, so he adjusted his Nokojuritsu to rest in the crook of his right arm and made a cross seal with his hands. He prepared his chakra and focused. At the moment he heard clothes brushing up against the stone ahead, he molded his chakra. Unfortunately for Naruto, Kimimaro was fast. 5 Kage Bunshin dispelled before the original blonde registered, the rest pulled back, but the Kagaya seemed to literally dance between them, bones sprouting out and dispelling 4 more Kage Bunshin. Naruto narrowly avoided getting scratched and giving himself away as his remaining Kage Bunshin attempted to help him pincer Kimimaro, but both could see his bones coming at them and pulled back. Naruto was glad even a Kage Bunshin could avoid being dispelled if they were armed and defended themselves from taking damage, but the second attack the Bunshin block dispelled it anyway, and the blonde got the impression of Jared arms being the cause that time. He decided Kage Bunshin really were too flimsy if the enemy was this strong, but managed to take advantage of the distraction provided to throw a handful of shuriken as he moved towards where Kimimaro had come from. Kimimaro spun and flourished his bones to deflect the shuriken aside, a sight that was unsettling even to Naruto, then charged. The two met each other's glare and clashed. The blonde kept his Noko Juritsu in a rigid form to better use it defensively, and test the defenses of the older white-haired teen. In a direct clash, however, the blue-eyed boy was proven outmatched for speed and skill, and his opponent was almost as strong as he was, so he was pushed back. What concerned Naruto most was Kimimaro's apparent durability. He noticed when they last fought that he could not get a blow deeper than the skin against the green-eyed shinobi. That had been with the bladed whip mode of Noko Juritsu. Now he tested the rigid cane form and took bones to his arms and chest in order to land solid blows to confirm. "How do you have armor under your skin?" Naruto snapped angrily as he pulled back. Then he noticed with some alarm that his opponent healed almost as fast as him over the damaged flesh from his own bones, ripping his skin open. "It is bone. My Kekkei Genkai, Shikatsumiyaku, allows me absolute control over my bones," Kimimaro explained. Naruto blinked owlishly. "I should have guessed that, but hearing it out loud is still weird." He muttered, "So you can use chakra to control your bones?" He guessed, and he could not help but compare it to how his blood reacted to his chakra in Yuki no Kuni. "There is a bit more to it than that, but the details are not for your ears, Konoha trash," Kimimaro retorted as he lifted his hand to the blonde. Then his fingers split open and the Chunin was struck in the torso by 5 phalanges. "You shot me!" Naruto was baffled. "So that's what it's like to be on this side of that, ow!" He groaned as he staggered back, away from his opponent. He doubted he'd be able to get a gun shot off on his opponent, and defeating the older teen in a straight fight was seeming less likely. However, Naruto was still a ninja, so he braced himself and focused his chakra. He tried to take a deep breath but was forced on the back foot by a sudden charge from Kimimaro. The blonde stepped to the side of the attack and quickly prepared himself for what he expected the follow-up attack to be, and with his opponent not looking he dared smirk when the bones grew out to stab into him. Kimimaro frowned. His bones were stuck in a corpse, but it was a corpse he'd already made. Naruto had used Kawarimi no Jutsu with one of the Yaja the Kagaya had already killed. The white-haired shinobi turned to intercept a counter-attack, but to his surprise the blonde had disappeared. Cowardly trash," Kimimaro muttered to himself before he coughed. "I can still hear you." Naruto's voice echoed through the depths towards Kimimaro from 2 different halls and he tensed. The ninja with full control over his own skeleton had been deep behind enemy lines for over a month and had survived. He had even survived these depths. Although he had yet to find the source of immortality for Orochimaru, he had proven himself superior to the Yaja that dwell in the ruins beneath Konoha. So Kimimaro wondered what about the situation had changed, what the cause was for the bead of sweat running down his neck. Naruto had not engaged him for a month. Thus Kimimaro had thought himself the victor against the blonde last they fought, but he could not shake the impression that he was on the precipice of stepping into the den of a genuine Bakemono. Kimimaro steeled himself and moved deeper, but found the traps in the dungeon were suddenly more well hidden and most tellingly accompanied by newer traps, more hastily built, ninja handiwork. "Show yourself," he snapped as he halted himself from snapping a cluster of nearly invisible taut steel wire. He tried to figure out what they were connected to, but they spanned into the dark where even he couldn't tell what lurked. Naruto was being careful, observant enough that he finally noticed that Kimimaro, who should have died, was still pushing himself. "When was the last time you slept?" he asked. I will not sleep until I complete my mission. Kimimaro spat. The blonde took a better look to appreciate how haggard the older ninja was. The Uzumaki could not be certain, but he recalled Kimimaro seemed more sickly a month ago than he did in that moment, and worried that the bone user had already accomplished his mission without knowing it. In which case killing him would only confirm or deny it, but that ran the risk of Orochimaru getting the arcane blood. Naruto could not let that happen, but he didn't have any fuinjutsu capable of holding a ninja indefinitely. He had no genjutsu, and his ninjutsu were all either supplementary or lethal. So for a moment he thought that limited him to taijutsu, shurikenjutsu, bukijutsu, traps and stealth. You already failed your mission. Naruto lied as an idea came to him. He'd forgotten that he was already trying to use the most vital ninja tool according to a few of his sensei, thinking. Liar. Kimimaro called him out, but his scowl had deepened at the accusation. A subtle tell, but it was clear to Naruto that his opponent was tired and mentally exhausted. You really think you survived a month without sleep, Nigen? Naruto asked flatly. Fighting? Scavenging for scraps of edible food? The meat down here is edible, Kimimaro insisted, which actually told the hidden Chunin how Kimimaro had unknowingly become immortal. Is it? Naruto asked rhetorically. He pitched his voice down slightly. You really thought that, did you? Well, now you are in Jigaku and may never leave, but you seem to fit in all the same. He bluffed, watching with guilty pleasure as Kimimaro's eyes widened in shock and he made to retreat. Naruto waited until he was sure Kimimaro was actually going to try to leave before he rushed to warn Konoha that he'd driven an immortal agent of Orochimaru out of the depths on the belief they were dead. Tenten jolted upright as a crash came from the apartment downstairs. She looked at the time and scowled. She knew she should have been asleep over an hour ago, but that was no excuse for people to be making so much noise. She had even been quiet in her work on the weird gauntlet Naruto asked her to take a closer look at. The kunoichi stomped outside to yell at the downstairs neighbor, joined by her other neighbors, but they were all startled by the blue-armored figure of the Naidame, assisted by Umbu, including some with blank masks that the ninja watching assumed must be a branch of Oinen they should pretend they never saw. And the cause of the commotion was a Bakemono. Tenten wasn't sure how else to describe a humanoid with 6 massive bone spikes protruding from its back with a bony tail, dark gray skin. Even the eyes didn't look natural with black scara. Thankfully the Umbu and Naidame Hokage were able to contain the situation using ninjutsu to erect barriers while Tobirama Senju demonstrated what Kage-level taijutsu looked like. Tenten tried not to take notice that the blank-masked Umbu were missing, or that they'd taken a corpse of their own with them instead of helping with normal cleanup. To some people's horror the Naidame seemed to be struck, but when he became water and dropped a kunai the real Tobirama arrived in a flash of chakra, weaved hand signs and trapped the gray-skinned Bakemono in a Suiro no Jutsu. The onlookers were still obviously concerned, as was Tenten. An enemy had been inside Konoha, but worse was the murmuring and rumors that started when many of them overheard the white-haired Bakemono refer to Orochimaru with a respectful honorific. Ibiki raised an eyebrow at the report for the new prisoner as Anko came in with 2 cups of coffee from the TNI espresso machine that tasted perhaps a little too metallic no matter how much they cleaned it or changed the filters. The 2 were called in for the rather special case, but this hiragana, Anko-san, is this your boyfriend's handwriting? He asked. Anko scoffed and rolled her eyes. Very funny, you know I haven't had a date in weeks. She complained as she approached to see what the report said. Oh, Naruto-kun was involved in this? She asked as her eyes widened in surprise. Ibiki smirked. So yes, he said, and the kunoichi was sorely tempted to pour coffee on his head. More impressively, he apparently resorted to psychological warfare when he failed to defeat this Kimimaro Kagaya in a straight fight. He explained as he traded the report for one of the coffee cups. Anko scanned the report and tried to maintain an air of indifference but couldn't resist a smirk of his own. Damn shame Jiraiya-sama snatched him up. If I'd gotten him as my apprentice we could have him right here, learning how to torture physically from me and how to mentally scar people from you. It'd be like if we had a baby. She finished with a wide grin at the man. Ibiki scoffed. Did you miss the part where psychological warfare was the last thing he thought of and his words were psyched him out with some bullshit about him already being dead? He asked. Still, good instincts for deception. Even if his opponent was caught sleep-deprived, Naidame-sama's half of the report indicates this was probably one of Orochimaru's more trusted bodyguards. Oh, I'm going to enjoy torturing him then. Anko perked up immediately. No, Naruto thinks he may be mushy too, we need to hide that from him. Ibiki refused quickly. I'll build on what foundations have been laid down. If he finds out he can't actually stay dead, that he succeeded in the mission Orochimaru set him, I don't think our facilities will be able to contain him for questioning. He'd need to be locked down under Fuinjutsu by one of the former Hokage-sama or Jiraiya-sama in that situation. He explained at length. Anko pouted but didn't argue, she supposed she had other work to do. Naruto tried not to fidget. Kakuri was staring at him unblinking as he recited what he'd already written down in his report for the benefit of the Hokage. The Mizuchi grimaced when he finished. Why did you not take me down there? She asked. You can't teleport through the dream with me. Naruto answered, I need to get deeper than it's possible to travel in a single night. He clarified at her furrowed brow of confusion. Why? Tobirama asked. The blonde was confused by the question. What reason do you need to go deeper? Naruto scowled. I need to know what I am. He answered, there's more to this. I know I am Naruto Uzumaki, Konoha Shinobi and future Hokage, but this arcane blood has made me something different to Nijin. He explained, by definition, I'm a yokai. He finished before he frowned. Wait, shit, so is that Kimimaro guy now? Tobirama laughed. The sound caught everyone in the room off guard. By definition? A yokai is a broad term. From my understanding, with your chakra reserves you became a yokai the moment you learned Taiju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu and demonstrated the ability to spam it without dying. He explained with an amused smirk. Sara would be considered a yokai to common folk since before he even trained with Tenryus shaped like his namesake. He added, I'd argue any Uchiha with a Sharingan should be considered a yokai, and I know for a fact that even some shinobi considered the Hyuga a clan of yokai during Sengoku Jidai. He continued, That's different. Kakuya snapped, You're Shiryo. Shiryo no Fujimi. She continued in an accusatory tone. Hiruzen coughed. Actually, he has a point. Many ninja reach a point where they would be considered Bakemono by the time they become Jonin. He confirmed, however, there is clearly something different about what happened to Naruto-kun. He continued. Kakuya huffed. There is a difference in nature. She grumbled, but didn't seem intent on clarifying at the confused expressions she received. Tobirama shrugged. Those I met who were like him regarded their condition with a hidden religious fervor. But they all had something in common with what he just said that caught my attention. They were all drawn to explore deeper to learn what they are. Isn't that normal? To want to know? To want to understand? Naruto was visibly confused by the admonishment. Hiruzen flinched. The question was eerily similar to one he'd been asked by a student before. Tobirama, however, just nodded. Of course. However, you are a shinobi, and you should temper this with caution. He warned you should not be too hasty about going too deep. After all, when the foundations were laid I knew of 6 Ryoshi who spoke of 2 others. How many have you met? Naruto's eyes widened. Just the 2. He realized the implication, but he soon realized worse that the others had a different implication. None of them had seen a Yaja that was once a Ryoshi before. The blonde tried to remember if he'd ever implied it could happen before. Kakuya hissed, So this place, it is ripe with the same blood that made you mushy? She asked. The blonde looked like a deer in the headlights, which was apparently enough of an answer. Then there is a source of the blood deeper. That's how those ancient ruins always work, she said with a nod. How would you know this? Tobirama asked. I tried to eat a source once, but it broke my skull and threw me into the ocean. The blood was delicious though. Kakuryu answered proudly. What? What is the source of the blood? Naruto asked frantically. He hadn't been aware the Mizuchi had seen that much. No idea, my recollection of the fight is hazy. Kakuya answered. Only reason I know it cracked my skull because that's the injury I had when I woke up. She explained, I think it had arms. She muttered. Tsunade sighed. Alright, I'm done with this report. Everyone out of my office, I need to finish this paperwork. She decided simply. Much to her irritation, the night aim did not leave. Tobirama knew well that his older brother had instilled spoiled bad habits into the girl, but he had died before he could do anything to rectify it, and clearly the woman had been allowed to continue certain habits. I don't like that you can teleport without me, Kikuria said bluntly once they were back at the apartment. Isn't there some way you can Kuchios no Jutsu with me? Or just carry me on your person? You took weapons with you, she rambled. Naruto blinked olishly as he realized the Mizuchi had actually put a lot of thought into how his ability worked, mostly due to the fact that it was getting in the way of what she wanted clearly, but that what she wanted was to stick close to him was kind of touching. No idea, Naruto confessed with a shrug. That stuff is on my person when I ring the bell. I doubt I could take a person, he explained. Well, let us try. I have the same blood. Perhaps I can see what the deal is with this sleep nonsense Ningen seemed to enjoy at night, Kikuria decided. Naruto was confused. How are you going to try? He asked. By being on your person, duh. Now lie down so I can get on top of. Why did you turn red? No reason. Naruto lied as he sat on his bed. He tried not to be embarrassed or think about how Kikuria was positioning them. It was not entirely comfortable, but he pulled out his little silver bell and rang it. In a blink he was in the dream and alone with the doll. Naruto was a little disappointed it hadn't worked, but he supposed he hadn't expected it to. Something about the dream seemed intensely personal, even Ryoshi did not seem to ever share it. He turned to his tombstone to return but was confused. Why is the light purple? He asked. The doll shrugged. I have no idea. I have never seen such a thing. Naruto sighed. Figures it must have something to do with Kikuria-chan. He muttered before he returned to wakefulness by stepping through said tombstone. Why did you ring that bell? Are we not dreaming? Kikuria asked. I dreamed. The bell worked for me but not for you, sorry. Naruto apologized. Kikuria groaned in a vocalized but wordless complaint before she slumped over the blonde. Fine. I will protect your body here when you rest and assist you in areas you cannot teleport around Konoha until we figure out how to teleport me to you, she decided with a grumble. Naruto wondered if she was going to get up, but he found the current position comfortable, and held his tongue for a bit longer than needed. After a few minutes the blonde was surprised the Mizuchi could hold still for so long. He knew others would be similarly surprised about him, but still. Karen entered Naruto's apartment the next morning without knocking or asking, which made Kikuria jolt out of the bed as if burnt. No Ningen while Naruto no Dana is dreaming, she hissed. I wasn't dreaming though, Naruto pointed out, which prompted a hum of understanding from the Mizuchi that quickly sounded confused. Karen stared at the two. I was wondering why you two were just stationary together for so long after I woke up, but were you two seriously cuddling all night? She asked. We were not cuddling, Naruto denied quickly. I don't even know the meaning of the word, Kikuria declared smugly and proudly. Seriously, what is cuddling? She asked. Extended body contact, Karen answered. Oh then yes, we did that all night, Kikuria confirmed with a nod. Cuddling implies an embrace. We were not embraced, she was just laying on top of me, Naruto corrected quickly, glaring at Karen for the embarrassment. Kikuria nodded. This is true, there was no embracing, she confirmed. Karen raised an eyebrow. Why were you both even in the same bed? She asked. I only have the one bed, Naruto pointed out without thinking. Neither of you need to actually sleep, Karen retorted. Naruto no Dana was trying to show me his dream, but the bell did not work on me, Kikuria explained. She sounded upset at the second part. Karen's eyes widened before she nodded. Oh, yeah, that makes sense, but then why not get up until I show up? Naruto was curious about that too and looked at Kikuria for the answer. Naruto no Dana is comfortable, warm too. Karen was not sure what answer she expected from the Mizuchi, but given what she was dealing with she guessed that was as logical an answer as any. Then she looked expectantly at Naruto for his answer. Kikuria picked up on it, and turned to the blonde as well. The Chunin realized they expected him to answer too. I was comfortable, warm too. He decided to go with sarcasm and humor, that never failed. Oh no, the rebellious teenage phase. Karen sighed with mock morose tones. She even held her left hand up to her forehead dramatically. You're the rebellious teen. Why are you barging into my apartment without knocking? Naruto snapped. Kakuria nodded. Indeed, we're the adults here, she insisted imperiously as she leaned against the blonde. Karen raised an eyebrow. Wait, are you two actually? She asked and lifted one pinky finger to twitch it. No, Kakuryu and Naruto said at the same time. Karen wasn't sure she believed them, but she shrugged. Anyway, I barged in mostly because I was confused that you hadn't moved in a while and your chakras were on top of each other, Karen explained. You were snooping? Naruto realized, not entirely surprised. I was snooping, Karen confirmed with a nod. The blonde Uzumaki sighed. I never thought taking you in would be such a breach of my privacy, you know. He complained anyway. I heard Lee was doing better, so that went well? He asked suddenly, leaving Kakuryu out of the loop and confused. Karen frowned, as well as could have been hoped for, I guess. She muttered, rubbing her left forearm with her right hand. Tsunade-sama is an amazing area ninja. I honestly think she could have done it without me, but she insisted the odds were too low to risk without help. She explained, on the downside he asked me out after the fact and promised to protect me with his life even after I turned him down. Tenten-san told me at least 3 other girls in the village have similar life promises. Naruto snorted at the information. So he's energetic enough that no one can stop him from training if he shouldn't? He assumed. Karen nodded. Yeah, pretty much. She answered before she gave her relative a serious look. Don't go sparring with him, or encouraging him. If he tried to keep up with someone like you, he might actually end up dying of exhaustion. She warned. Her tone was alarmingly serious. Danzo had fully expected the Mizuchi to show up with Naruto when the blonde knocked on his door for training, so he did not react to her or the way she sneered and leaned away from him when he opened the door. It was very rude of her, but he suspected it would not be to his benefit to pursue that topic. Naruto Uzumaki showing up at the Shimura residence of his own accord for training was very much to Danzo's benefit. However, if the blonde boy was truly mushy and could maintain such status while remaining stable, then Konohagakure no Sato could potentially have an eternal Jinchuriki. A step above all other Jinchuriki, past and future. Tobirama Senju was still to be respected, however. Danzo would not risk going where the blonde boy had ventured. Even if Naruto had survived before even graduating, there were too many unknown factors to risk. Plus, with the Naidame around, Danzo himself was allowed to be a little more open with his Naumbu. Unfortunately, this had come with a verbal dressing down from said Naidame Hokage about how Sara was the Sandame, and his authority should have been respected in regards to dismantling the Na and overturning the oversight of the entrance to the depths to proper Konoha forces. Danzo was a little bitter that his mentor seemed to think the incident with Naruto Uzumaki could have been avoided if that were done. He respected Tobirama, but the man really did not yet understand just how much of a chaotic element the blonde Chunin was. Honestly, the Shimura would have thought bringing a Mizuchi home and asking to keep it should have been a massive clue that Naruto Uzumaki did not do things normally. But he could forgive most anyone for thinking the blonde unsubtle, or not stealthy at a glance. Danzo would prefer not to influence too much if not necessary, however. Even if it would be beneficial, the Sandame and Godame Hokage would both kick up a stink, as would Jiraiya, if Danzo's Shimura was influencing Naruto Uzumaki. He thought they were all being ridiculous, but if they had a potentially perfect Jinchuriki, then he would offer assistance that would not be seen as overt. More than any other reason, though, Danzo listened, as it turned out to be to his benefit that the Mizuchi, Kakuryu as Naruto apparently called her, spoke with the blonde Chunin within earshot. He overheard things that made him sure he did not need to tip his hand. The shinobi had somehow convinced the yokai that Hokage was a position of more mystical power. As near as the Shimura could tell, the yokai now shared Naruto's goal, in a manner of speaking. She seemed to want to be a Shugashin of some kind. He'd gathered as much from the reports before even meeting her, but for some reason that goal now involved Naruto becoming Hokage. Danzo hoped privately that it did not happen. He didn't have enough confidence in Naruto's mental stability, nor did he think the boy would be suited to the job. If it came down to it, though, he wondered what he could possibly do to stop it. The boy was young, he was old, and even were he to push his body to last beyond human limits, it sounded like Naruto was genuinely deathless. Regardless of Danzo's wants, he knew the two having such a goal of protecting Konohagakure no Sato was to the benefit of the future of the village. So he had no problems with teaching Naruto some basic futon no jutsu and assisting the boy. He felt that would be to the benefit of the future of the village too. Futon affinity was rare in High no Kuni. Oh good, Jiraiya, you're back. What's the Tsunade began to ask, but her old teammate stomped over and put his hands forcefully to the desk. What is it with Naruto and Hibi? Jiraiya snapped frantically. Hiruzen almost choked on his tea. Tsunade glared at the man for his tone. Fuck if I know, she retorted dryly. By the way, we have that agent we thought died underground in Tianai. Possibly the same type of mushy as Naruto-kun now. She explained. Now what news on your end? She demanded of the gaping man. Jiraiya snapped his mouth shut and shook his head. Nothing. Akatsuki movements slowed down and actually came to a stop in High no Kuni and some other nations. He began. As for Orochimaru, oddly enough he still seems to be licking his wounds because there hasn't been a peep from him either. Tsunade frowned. Well, the poison of the Kusanagi is inconclusive. She muttered. She could treat the symptoms and keep it from being lethal, but at the end of the day all she was doing was letting the cursed toxin run its course. I guess Naruto-kun's blood made it even more potent. She guessed. So, Hiruzen began, we have breathing room at least. He sighed with relief. I would say that if we let Naruto-kun go with Enmidano, that a new contractor for the Sara tribe be selected. They could not go the whole journey through the mountains, but such journeys should be personal anyway. Truthfully, I would just prefer our village not lose this contract. Tsunade frowned. We're not even sure if he should go, she pointed out. I've given him permission already, but do not call on Enmidano until Naruto Uzumaki is ready. Tobirama interrupted. Definitely wait until his team returns, and do not do it straight away. Have patience, we have plenty of time. He cautioned. Hiruzen huffed. You and Naruto-kun may have all the time in the world. He retorted dryly. His words made Tsunade tense with unease. There are very few options for such a contract among our more promising Chunin, let alone Jonin or Tokujonin. He lamented. Karen frowned when she returned home and didn't feel Naruto's chakra. Worse was that she felt Kakuryu's just there, lurking. She could practically visualize a menacing aura near the door. Then it opened and the Mizuchi peeked out to stare at her. Chakra sensing Nigen. Where is Naruto no Dana? Kakuryu demanded to know bluntly. Karen rolled her eyes. I have no idea, but I'm assuming her teleported. She guessed and the yokai in the doorway nodded. Well, just wait, he always comes back. She promised. The fact usually calmed her. Kakuryu grimaced, then scowled, before finally settling on a frown. He is probably fighting right now and I am not. How am I supposed to pay off the debt for ripping out Amasuka Hoko like this? She grumbled. Aniki might not even be fighting. Karen pointed out. He likes to have dinner with this family he rescued in Nami no Kuni, and he has a job back in Yuki no Kuni, right? She asked. Kakuryu's frown became a scowl again as she shook her head. Fool, Naruto no Dana is a man of action. I have no had a single dull moment since joining him. She insisted. You were lying on his stomach for almost 6 hours. Karen pointed out flatly. Resting is not dull, Iria Ninja. Kakuryu retorted, saying the title with some sarcasm that made the girl gape in surprise. I am certain Naruto no Dana fights some new threat I would have enjoyed fighting just as much. Naruto felt a little guilty. He was sure Kakuryu would love the braised pork belly, but so would anyone else he supposed, and none of them could join him either. Although the only two he knew at this table were Koyuki and Sandayu, he vaguely recalled some of the nobility being samurai who were present for his fight with the Yukiana. So I really don't have anything to do? Naruto asked, and a few people shook their heads. Yukigakure no Sato didn't have nearly enough forces remaining to actually remain standing, so any remaining ninja went into hiding. Sandai answered, I've no doubt some will become bandits, but it's far too early in Koiki-sama's reign for such reports to reach our desks. He assured the young Gokunin. Naruto was not great at small talk, and found himself drifting in and out of listening to different conversations as they ate. He had expected a job like the one he'd been given to come with fighting bandits or something. So how is the mainland? Koiki asked. Naruto took a second to register the question, then another to formulate his answer. Honestly? Same as usual mostly, although Kakuryu-chan has been weirdly domestic, you know. He added, He wasn't sure if he should mention Kimimaro or Orochimaru, but another thought occurred to him, a harmless slip of information that might interest them. Oh, Tsunade-ba-chan became the Godame Hokage, but that happened before I got back. He added. For reasons Naruto could not fathom, Koiki's eye twitched. Domestic, you say? She asked, but her question was drowned out by one of the samurai recognizing the other name. Did you just call Tsunade the Sannin no Bacon? Yeah, because she is. Naruto answered bluntly. To him it meant she was old, to the samurai it was simply confirmation that two blonde ninja from Konoha were related. Ashamed the Uzumaki didn't know enough to care to correct them on which Hokage. Koyuki poured herself a sake. She wondered if Sandae would let her get away with having less nobility present the next time Naruto visited. Chapter 37, Chunin Duties and Training. Kakuria stared at Hinata. The poor white-eyed girl shivered under the red-eyed gaze of the serpent in humanoid form. Do your eyes show the future? The Mizuchi asked. Hinata shook her head. Byakugan gives 360-degree vision. She kept the explanation short, not wanting to go into detail. Perfect peripheral vision. Kakuria mused. Ah, so you Hyuga are prey animals, she declared smugly, which earned a confused and embarrassed noise from the girl. Naruto looked at Karen. Why did you think this was a good idea? He asked quietly. I didn't, but the people you interact with have to meet each other eventually. Karen answered with equal quiet. The blonde beside her decided not to bring up that she hadn't wanted Hinata to meet Enko, but Enko did not live with them despite how often she visited. Also, technically the two had met during the Chunin exams, they just hadn't interacted, but still. Kakuria, however, was arguably much worse than the Tokujonin. Humans are predators, but a whole clan of you developed such a wimpy ability. She cackled madly as she pointed at the girl with her right foot. Hinata was more embarrassed than angered by the mocking. The face of the Mizuchi in disguise contorted unnaturally with her guffaws. Kakuria-chan saved mocking like that for Hyuga who deserve it, like Niji. Naruto interrupted. Even he was surprised that the yokai actually looked contrite under her annoyed glare. Hinata sighed with relief as the mocking laughter stopped. She sent a grateful look to Naruto. That reminds me, did he apologize yet? Naruto asked. Hinata paled but knew there was no point lying. Niji's pride would give away that an apology had never happened, she was sure. No, she confessed sadly, more out of guilt for whatever punishment was definitely going to hit her cousin. Damned shame. Naruto intoned as he made a kaige bunshin and it left out the window. Kakuria's brow had furrowed deeper and deeper in confusion as she was left out of the loop. So, what's with the red-eyed lady? Kiba asked. Not Kurenai-sensei. He added quickly. Hinata shrugged. I'm not sure, she's scary, and her Kurakuki eye isn't normal, but I guess she listens to Naruto-kun. She explained. Shino nodded. She looks human, but the exterior is pure chakra. He mused. An advanced application of henge. I do not think I have ever seen someone put more chakra into one than Naruto-san. He added. Okay, but what actually is she? Kiba asked. Hinata shrugged. Some kind of hibi underneath, I think. She answered. Something long coiled up into that humanoid form. She clarified. She can move her arms, but I notice she prefers to gesture with her head or right foot. She added. Are you three really gossiping about a new ally already? Kurenai asked as she approached her cell. She expected better of them. Well, maybe not Kiba. The Inuzuka shrugged. Hey, Akamaru said she smelled like rotting blood, anticoagulant, flammable venom, and burnt flesh. He explained. Obviously I am going to be startled by an obviously inhuman lady taking an interest in a fellow Konoha shinobi. He reasoned expertly. Shino decided to rat him out. You also mentioned that it was completely unfair for Naruto Uzumaki to be surrounded by women. Kiba glared at Shino as Kurenai glared at Kiba. Honestly, Hinata-chan, why even go along with this? The Jonin asked, clearly disappointed in the younger Kunoichi. Hinata frowned. Well, there were a lot of older women around Naruto-kun according to Kiba-kun, and one of them was Anko Mitarashi, so, she trailed off, embarrassed to admit she'd been caught up in the wild theories Kiba had been throwing around. I estimate Kiba-san was overthinking the situation. Shino reasoned simply. Naruto-san likely was dragged into a mostly female gathering and had no idea how to extradite himself from said situation. I sincerely doubt he was intentionally surrounded by all of them. He explained as he adjusted his shades. From what you described of Tenten-san being present, I would estimate that aside from Enko-san and Karen-san, many of them were curious about the new weapon he acquired. Kurenai stared at the Abirame. For a quiet boy, he could be surprisingly verbose and nitpicky when he chose to speak. Excellent work, Shino-kun. She praised. She knew well enough that Abirame were good at gathering information with their Kikeichu, but sometimes Shino caught his team off guard with something like that. It did give away to the rest of Cell 8 that Shino was just as curious about the situation as Kiba was, no matter how well reserved he seemed. Hinata was concerned about something else. Is Anko a problem? She asked quietly, her tone far more icy than normal for the girl. Kurenai raised an eyebrow at the choice of wording. Hinata almost never forewent honorifics for one thing. The Jonin couldn't well blame Hinata's concern though. She actually knew Anko better than her genin, and she was concerned. I doubt it. Anko-san may have a twisted sense of humor, but she won't actually hurt a fellow Konoha ninja. Kurenai promised, but she could not help but worry almost as much as the young Hyuga. The details of exactly how Orochimaru had hurt Anko were not public knowledge, which unfortunately left much to speculation. Even Kurenai knew little. Kurenai did unfortunately know, although mercifully not firsthand, that those who were hurt in certain ways tended to hurt others in those ways. She really hoped Anko would not do such a thing. Anko sneezed as she tried to throw a dango stick into the pattern she'd been making. Damn, probably shouldn't have slept in the woods. She muttered, you'd think one of them would have thought to wrap me up with more than just my coat. Yugao raised an eyebrow as she looked at the nearly perfect Konoha symbol made of dango sticks in the dartboard. Not that anyone knew where the darts were for the old thing anymore. Are you seriously complaining that you weren't coddled? That's not like you, she accused. Anko rolled her eyes. Just an idle complaint about their performance. But I guess Naruto-kun wouldn't bother with carrying around any provisions for normal human survival in those scrolls, she retorted quietly. Probably for the best he left you be then. Imagine if you'd woken up with him keeping you warm with his embrace because you didn't warn him he'd need them. Yugao responded casually, taking a sip of her drink to hide her smirk at how red-faced the Tokujonin was at her words. Anything you're clear to talk about happened lately? Anko asked suddenly in a rather blatant attempt at changing the subject. Well, yes, but you probably know more than me about that Bakemono Nidaime-sama captured. Yugao answered, then she was left to wonder why Anko groaned and slumped over. She assumed her drinking partner wasn't allowed to say as much about that subject as her and let it drop. Naruto could not sit around for an entire month, and he did not want to. But Tsunade still frowned when he showed up at the mission office. You know you still have another day off, right? She asked flatly. Can't I just use it later? Naruto asked, like when my team actually gets back? He asked simply. Tsunade sighed. Fine, I was going to give you some patrol and gate duty missions until Cell 7 returns anyway. She agreed before she scanned the scrolls on her desk. Oh, you can join Asuma Sarutobi's cell in a patrol around the southwest forest, she decided as she quickly penned a note. Ino Yamanaka ended up being unable to go with them, she added. Naruto accepted the penned note and nodded. Kakuria spent the entire time in an unblinking staring contest with the Nidaime Hokage until the Chunin dragged her out the door. That yokai is very nervous around you, Hiruzen muttered. Edo Tensei is an unnerving kinjutsu, Tobirama answered, but his tone had no pride to it. Asuma frowned at the new additions for the patrol, but the note was legitimate as far as he could tell, and he doubted such a forgery would get so far within Konoha. The Jonin glanced nervously at the Mizuchi. Well, I suppose I'm showing two Chunin this route today? He asked as his gaze shifted back to the blonde Chunin. Naruto nodded. I got bored of time off, he confirmed. It was partly a bluff. He liked the training time, and it technically gave him time to do other things. But Kakuria was clearly getting more antsy the more she didn't get to do anything. Why don't we just fly over the route? Kakuria asked. Running around the ground seems inefficient, she complained. We can't fly, Shikamaru retorted dryly. Asuma nodded in agreement with his Chunin student. Also, the canopy is good for hiding from an aerial view anyway, he pointed out. Kakuria furrowed her brow. Just use your chakra to make yourself as light as a feather and ride the wind, she insisted as if it was obvious. Naruto frowned. I don't know how to do that, he confessed. Lost on me too, sorry Kakuria-san, but we humans probably can't do your version of flight. Asuma added, I have heard of flying Tsuchikage, but I never saw that in the wars personally. Kakuria scowled. I will teach Naruto no Dana the power of flight myself then, she insisted. Did you miss the part where that doesn't help our mission, and that we have a mission? Shikamaru asked, and the Mizuchi turned a red-eyed glare on the lazy Chunin, who to his credit managed to not flinch despite the beads of sweat on his forehead. Naruto scratched the back of his head. Did you learn to fly by eating some kind of supernatural thing too? He asked, recalling how she mentioned learning Katan chakra. No, Kakuria answered, but she did not elaborate further, as she eyed the other shinobi suspiciously. They all gathered she was smart enough to keep details for private training. Naruto found patrol was kind of boring, as they mostly just kept an eye out for disturbed trails. He and Shikamaru were both visibly worried when Choji started eating chips, however. Not because the Akimichi was eating chips, that was normal, but because Kakuria was staring at the rotund boy. Are you preparing to hibernate? She asked bluntly. Humans don't do that, Shikamaru pointed out dryly with a subtle twitch to his eye. Ninja clans are strange, he might. Kakuria snapped in a strangely defensive tone. Akimichi do not hibernate, Shikamaru retorted. I know that for a fact. Choji nodded. Yeah, we just have the ability to turn calories into chakra for our hijitsu. He explained. The sea serpent had not said the forbidden word, so he was not upset with her curiosity. Kakuria furrowed her brow in confusion before her eyes widened in recognition. Ah, you get stronger just by eating. No fair, she complained. Kakuria-chan, you sort of do that anyway, Naruto recalled, more literally than any human too. He added. Not the same, anyone can get calories and nutrients out of food. Kakuria grumbled, but the Uzumaki was pretty sure breathing fire had nothing to do with calories or nutrients, although he supposed directly turning a specific thing like calories into chakra must just be something the Mizuchi never encountered before. As Naruto thought, though, there was not much in the southwest forests. He noticed Kakuria frowning at him as they returned. What? He asked. I think your Godame Hokage put us on this mission to get us out of the way, Kakuria assumed, somewhat correctly. Naruto sighed with some exasperation. I do need to learn these patrol routes, you know, he groused. Patrol missions usually have nothing happen honestly, and more common than real action is you need to report where you found evidence of suspicious movement for the next patrol to keep an eye out for and confirm. Asuma explained, taking his role of explaining how things work to the two new Chunin seriously. Kakuria's eyes snapped to the cigarette the Jonin pulled out as she licked her lips. What's that? She asked as he pulled out his lighter. It's tobacco mostly, Asuma answered. We call them cigarettes like this, he clarified, wondering what about it had caught her attention. He noticed she was just watching him, so he put it in his mouth and lit it, inhaling the smoke and exhaling it. Kakuria gasped, a training exercise for Katan chakra. She guessed. Naruto perked up at that, since even though he knew what cigarettes were, that actually made a twisted sort of sense. Asuma raised an eyebrow. No, I'm smoking it because there's a relaxing chemical in the tobacco that you can get in your lungs, he explained. I'll admit we Sarutobi have figured out some extra hijitsu with tobacco from before we joined Konoha, but Iri Ninja are always harping on us about it. Naruto frowned. So it's Kinjutsu? He asked. Asuma snorted. Well, maybe now that Tsunade-sama is Hokage she might label them that. He mused. Seriously though, this is just a relaxing vice for me, but apparently Sandaime-sama and I put a bit of a strain on the hospitals when times are rough, so I can't recommend it, he added. What's so dangerous about it? Naruto asked curiously. He was tempted to pry into why the Jonin referred to his own father so informally. Even he thought of the Yondaime as Shikyu now that he knew about their relation. Causes a buildup of tar in the lungs or something, Asuma answered vaguely. Tsunade-sama invented a way to remove it, but the procedure feels gross and most Iri Ninja make a point of forcing us to be awake for it, he explained. Shikamaru shuddered. Bossy women, how do you put up with them? He wondered. Kakuria hummed. Ignore them, eventually they will either escalate to violence or damage their vocal cords. she advised. That's terrible advice. Shikamaru disagreed. You dare not heed the advice of an Oryu, Nijen! Kakuryu snapped imperiously. The Nara jolted but turned away and tried his best to ignore her. The Mizuchi furrowed her brows for a moment before she bared her teeth in a monstrous grin. Ah, good, he learns quickly. She nodded smugly. Asuma took a long drag of his cigarette as he pulled out a second one, lit the tip with the still lit butt of the first, exhaled smoke out of his nose and finally switched to the second cigarette. I'll say it for him, troublesome. Well, Naruto-kun, Jiraiya began their meeting jovially with a smirk. You were eager, I hear. Went on your first patrol instead of taking leave to rest? He asked. You should take some time to relax. He scolded lightly. Naruto no Dana relaxed under this henge form I wear for approximately 6.5 hours. Kakuryu rebuked stiffly. Naruto pinched the bridge of his nose. Oh no. He muttered as Jiraiya began to laugh, then guffaw. Finally it became a full-blown cackle and the blonde weaved hand signs. Futon. He began and the Sannin stopped laughing. Tappa. He finished and unleashed a gust into the ground to kick up dust. Where did you learn that? Jiraiya asked. I didn't think Asuma-san would have had time yesterday. I was going to ask Sandame-jiji but Danzo-jiji found out about my affinity. Naruto began. How did he find out? Jiraiya asked, suddenly on guard. I told him. He saw me on my way to see Sandame-jiji and asked what I was doing. I said I was going to ask him for some training tips and I got this same lecture about letting old men enjoy retirement. Then he offered to give me pointers on his morning walk after he found out we were both futon aligned. Naruto explained. Jiraiya blinked. I can't tell if you're luckier than I thought or if Danzo is playing us like a fiddle. He muttered simply. Kakuryu grimaced. Oh, he smells like septic. He will die soon, she said suddenly. Naruto snapped his head to her. Why didn't you say so earlier? How long? He asked. The Sannin was a little concerned about those details as well since they seemed important. Kakuryu cocked her head to the left. I thought it rude to say in front of him, then it didn't come up, and I don't know, maybe like 5 years, 10 tops if he lives as well as he seems to despite his injuries. She answered with all the detachment of a being that didn't care about some old Nijin. Jiraiya frowned. I doubt he doesn't know. If you can smell septic and estimate that much life left in him with, whatever scent glands you have that we don't, then his personal physician definitely would have picked it up during a routine checkup and not recently. He guessed, surprised by the disturbing information. Why are you both so shocked? He is old. There are many old people who will die soon. Kakuryu scolded. That is how Nijin are. She finished as she closed her eyes and tilted her head to the right. Naruto grimaced guiltily since that was apparently not how he would be anymore, and it didn't help that Jiraiya looked like someone had punched him in the stomach. The Sannin recovered quickly and cleared his throat. Right, so training. He began stiffly, suddenly very eager to impart things to his student. How about we start by trying to make your Rasengan bigger? He asked. Sounds simple, but it'll be difficult to maintain the stability at higher sizes and will give you an idea of how you can power up other kinds of ninjutsu with raw chakra. He explained. Naruto relaxed into the familiar topic of training. Making Rasengan a bit bigger and learning to increase the power output of ninjutsu sounded good. He took to adding more chakra easily enough. That part came naturally. Maintaining stability, on the other hand, was difficult. Kakuryu seemed to think his first attempt was fine, a good-sized crater. She praised. He is in the crater. Jiraiya pointed out the downside with a frown of concern. Naruto no Dana is fine. Kakuryu retorted with a huff and an eye roll that exaggerated into her entire head as the blonde in question stood. I'm okay, Naruto confirmed, but he did want to get better control of that, so it was not the last attempt of the day. Naruto found gate guard duty worse than patrol. At least with patrols they were on the move. The Chunin next to him, a man with a bandage across his face named Kotetsu, looked just as bored. I usually get this job with Izumo-san, but well, 2 new Chunin to show the ropes. He'd complained dryly. You sure you should be watching a gate anyway? He asked. Naruto shrugged. Probably good to do the mission a few times just so I know what to do, he assumed. Also, it might be to make sure I have some actual C ranks on my record instead of anything above D rank being A rank, you know. He mused. He silently wondered how or if the incident with Mizuki had been classified. Kikuria huffed as she slumped against the desk next to Naruto, her chin, neck, and chest all pressed to the wood in a way that gave away her human form was just a guise. This sucks. Does anyone actually ever attack? She asked. Kotetsu chuckled and shook his head. Nah, not usually. This job is pretty relaxed, he assured, much to the dread of both Naruto and Kikurio. Their energetic natures screamed in protest. Naruto managed to somehow fall into something of a routine. He was discouraged from traveling too deep into the depths by what the Naidame had said, but he did sweep areas he had already explored. He found little new, unfortunately, but resisted the urge to explore deeper or try to figure out what had happened with the antlered daiju. With Kikurio around, he let his body rest a bit more, mostly because if he teleported through tombstones while the light was purple, apparently an indication that the Mizuchi was physically resting on his body, he returned to a rather awkward tangle of limbs. Kikuria had been indignant to be on the bottom and had actually dropped her henge for a moment to get out from under him. Naruto decided to just use more time in the dream to practice his chakra control, as he did need the extra practice still. This habit had led to an interesting revelation. You flow your chakra when you dream, most unlike a ninja. It is quite nice, you know. Kikuria commented when he awoke one morning after practicing. She was getting better at recognizing whether or not he was in the dream. Is that why you treat me like a pillow? Naruto asked. Part of the reason he was so comfortable with the older woman lying on top of him was that after getting over the initial surprise, he noticed he could actually feel the coils of a snake resting on his body through the henge. The chakra disguising the yokai was more physical and oddly impossible than any other form of henge no jutsu, but it was still just a layer of chakra. Like clothing, the blonde could feel the sea serpent beneath the human form. The Uzumaki tried not to think about the fact that he was more comfortable with a giant serpent lounging over him than another person. He was sure it was just less embarrassing, and that was all. No, getting you used to the weight of my body is only step one of teaching you to erase the weight of your own body. Kikurio rebuffed before she fell silent. Also because your body is warm and comfortable, she added. Wait, you were serious about teaching me to fly? You mentioned that a while ago. I have been training your resting body consistently, have I not? Naruto was pretty sure Kikurio was lying about helping train him for flight, because step 2 was to make something else weightless and lift it. This was easiest to do with a rock apparently, so they'd found the biggest unattended boulder they could find in the training ground. Then the issue became simple. Naruto still had no idea how to use his chakra to make something weightless. It's Doton chakra. This would be easier if you were squished under a bunch of rocks, but even then it could take you months. Kikurio explained, which concerned the blonde. This way will definitely take longer, but it'll work, she insisted. Doesn't Doton chakra crumble rocks? Naruto asked, confused as he was concerned. Precisely. When the rock is crumbling from your grip, you'll know you're getting there. Kikurio agreed eagerly, teeth bared in a vicious grin. Naruto was pretty sure this was just going to be training muscle groups related to lifting and gripping that he just did not know the names of, but he figured it was worth a shot, and a part of him hoped the Mizuchi's crazy idea might eventually work. So, between the three of us, we can guarantee Naruto-kun safe travel through 3 territories in Tenzan, Tsunade mused. Provided I can find someone Enmidano approves of in time, Hiruzen muttered. Jiraiya was visibly concerned by that statement. Is that a requirement? Hiruzen shook his head. I misspoke. Naruto-kun should be safe with Enmidano regardless. I'm just hit by the regret that my folly may cost Konohagakure no Sato the Saru contract, he bemoaned, making both his students and undead sensei a little uncomfortable. What about Anko-san? Tsunade asked. Jiraiya cringed. Hibi are brutal, they won't care, and I don't think she's ever mentioned actually going to Ryakudo, he pointed out. Tengu are not one to care, Tobirama said bitterly. Do you have anyone in mind for the Namakuji contract, Tsunade-chan? He asked after removing the scowl from his face. Honestly, Karen Uzumaki might be a good apprentice. I just need to figure out how to motivate her, Tsunade answered. She's absolutely terrified of helping anyone but Naruto-kun. Getting her to help Rock Lee was definitely good for her, but... Oh, you should have said so, Hiruzen interrupted. Just tell Karen-chan it's so she can better assist Naruto-kun. That will motivate her, I assure you. Something about that boy motivates her. He explained, I presume something happened. Bonding by shared trauma is not uncommon, but from my understanding something happened in the Chunin exams that made her protective of him. He rambled slightly. Tsunade sighed as she noticed the slight twitch of her old sensei's fingers. Go ahead and have a smoke, Sarutobi-sensei. I need a drink, she said as she pulled out a saucer and bottle of sake. Pour me a drink too then, because I still don't technically have an apprentice for the Gamma contract, and now Naruto has gone and gotten himself a yokai girlfriend to complicate things further. Jiraiya complained as he sat down fully, the official meeting dissolving into a more casual discussion about their future plans for keeping the village and their shinobi safe. Naruto in particular was a difficult matter to consider. That he could not contract with Tengu was a minor issue, but he could freely travel through their realm because he was not mortal. All three of them wanted to stack the deck in the boy's favor for their own reasons. Those among his peers would be your best options. Tobirama pointed out. He'd read the files and knew Naruto's peers were in fact a rather exceptional crop of young shinobi. Hiruzen considered it as he inhaled from his swiftly retrieved and lit pipe. Well, Sasuke Uchiha would likely have the highest chakra reserves of his generation if Naruto-kun did not exist. He mused thoughtfully after a long exhale. You forgot Karen-chan. Tsunade rebuked as she finished pouring drinks. Gaara too. Jiraiya butted in before he sipped his drink, the Godane following suit without a word as the Night Aim narrowed his eyes at their deplorable manners. Hiruzen just nodded. Yes, exceptional cases, but I meant of his graduating 9 that year. He clarified. Jiraiya sighed. I dunno, I feel like I'd just be settling if I let someone besides Naruto-kun sign the Gamma contract. I might just go with him myself for that leg of the journey. Oh, lucky you, being able to do that. Tsunade grumbled bitterly, tapping her fingers on the desk as she glared, but at least he'll have help in 3 areas. She added with some relief. 3 areas that are not directly connected by any borders. Jiraiya added glumly. The other 2 contracted shinobi wondered how he actually knew that because they certainly never learned that. We also have no estimate of how long such a journey would take, even taking into account his teleporting. Tobirama reasoned. Naruto could be here in a moment then back there, and the timing will depend entirely on how often he determines a need to rest or return. He pointed out, we are basically attempting to plan around the whims of what Kakashi-san's reports describe as completely and ridiculously unpredictable. Tsunade nodded. Still, I should start trying to get Karen-san to train more seriously, get her less scared of area ninjutsu. She finished the sentence with a downward look. She was particularly sympathetic to Karen's issue, even if she didn't know the younger girl's reasons. Besides, they were basically family, distantly at least. Wait, what about Shizen-san? Jiraiya realized. Tsunade sighed. Shizen is an excellent area ninja, but she'd need either far more control or massively larger reserves to sign the Namakuji contract. She explained. I want to train you more seriously. Tsunade started her next meeting with Karen bluntly. The girl was very visibly taken aback. You've got talent for area ninjutsu and good chakra reserves. Plus I get the feeling you'd be more comfortable if you could help Naruto-kun on the front lines. Am I right? Karen gaped in surprise. The offer was astounding and the praise made her blush. Yes. Yes, Tsunade-sama. Hokage-sensei. She floundered for a correct title and went brighter red with embarrassment. Tsunade tried not to laugh and failed miserably. Tsunade-sensei will do. Now come on, let's whip you into shape, she ordered. Into shape? Karen asked. You've been acting like a backline medic. My apprentices are combat area ninja. Tsunade explained. You've let your combat instincts go dull. I'll be dealing with that when I'm not busy being Hokage. She continued. After that your training can start for real. Karen wondered why she had a sudden sense that she was in terrible danger. Sasuke's eyes twitched, both of them. He'd thought he'd be in for learning a lot of useful ninjutsu that would eventually help him kill Itachi. Instead he spent nearly a week of the journey just figuring out the Kirigakure no Jutsu that Sakura managed on the first day Kakashi showed it to them, no less. That the one without Sharingan was picking up basic Swate and no Jutsu easily was irritating. Sakura staring longingly at the Uchiha the entire time did not help his mood, in fact it made it worse. He'd be less annoyed if Sakura trained more, but the only thing that seemed to motivate her was him, and his presence distracted her too much most of the time. Sasuke knew the kunoichi of their cell did not have the same stamina or chakra reserves as any of them. Hell, they were all clan ninja. Her family may be ninja, but that had been a recent thing for the Haruno family. Clans were a different breed. Well, now Sasuke knew why. Kekkei Genkai were even less normal than ever hypothesized in academy classes or even Uchiha clan scrolls. Okay, mostly Sasuke was shaken because the Uchiha clan scrolls usually painted the Sharingan in a divine light, not an eldritch one. He decided he needed a distraction. His training was slow going and Sakura was irritating. The Uchiha leaned back and noticed Kakashi reading Ika while they trained, which meant the Jonin would hardly be any use. Sasuke turned to meet Sakura's gaze. "Alright, that does it," he growled as he stepped to the side of the boat to see how fast they were going. "Sakura, I'm going to show you how to build up your stamina," he decided. Then he jumped off the side of the boat and ran alongside it on the surface of the water. Kakashi lowered his book. "That would work," he confirmed. "I wish you'd both just kept practicing Suiton no Jutsu though," he added. "Practicing until you exhaust yourself will tire you out, but build you up for next time." Sakura knew that but wasn't sure she could keep up with Sasuke for long. That he offered to help her spurred her into jumping down after him and running alongside him. Kakashi sighed. He was proud of both of them, but he was still annoyed since he had to stop reading and actually keep an eye on his two Jonin. The Jonin wondered how his Chunin student was doing without them. "Lift with your chakra, not your muscles." "That doesn't make any sense." Tenten approached Naruto's apartment with a smug smirk and a fully repaired Kyomiai Supaka in hand. She had wanted to make a second, but unfortunately the materials needed to craft the right component parts would bankrupt the kunoichi. Still, she was proud she'd managed to completely repair it. Unfortunately no one was home, not even Karen. Tenten tried to check on their other neighbors and found to her confusion that they had no neighbors on the same floor. The kunoichi took a moment to consider the empty apartments for a moment before she decided to just come back later. When Tenten returned after dinner, she found Karen returning from some kind of training. From the looks of it, the girl was dressed a bit more modestly in a more modest pink shirt with the white Uzumaki spiral on the back of it, and black shorts. The younger kunoichi still seemed to like her mesh, but Tenten noticed it was more metallic now, likely armor, and recognized the outfit was for taijutsu. "Hey Karen-san, where's Naruto-kun? I finally fixed up Kyomiai Supaka," Tenten greeted. "Already?" Karen asked. "It was so banged up though." She recalled how bad it looked. "Exterior was scuffed, but the interiors are hardy. They'd be expensive to replicate though, so I see why there was only the one, but I wonder why Oto let a genin have it," Tenten explained. "Could be a rich brat." Karen muttered bitterly. "Sorry, I'm tired. I don't know when Aniki will be home, but if he's not on a mission he comes home eventually always, and he lets me know when he goes on missions," she explained. "Do you want to come in for a cup of tea?" she offered. Tenten shrugged. "Sure," she agreed. "So, new sensei?" she asked, unable to resist. Karen nodded as she opened the door. "Tsunade sensei is brutal," she confirmed with a shudder before she stepped into her apartment. Tenten stood at the entrance for a moment with a stunned expression. "You're getting trained by Tsunade Senju?" she asked excitedly, rushing in to join her new best friend for tea. Naruto was surprised Tenten was hanging out with Karen, but Tenten was surprised to see Kakuryu again. "Oh, you live on this floor with them?" she asked. "Live? What?" "Oh, yes, I dwell in that place with Naruto no Dana, you know." Kakuryu was confused at first but proved she was getting better at picking up on words that were clearly uncommon in her time, or among whoever taught her to speak. Naruto was also pretty sure the Mizuchi had probably suffered some mental trauma. Skull injury and memory loss would likely do that. Also, now that he thought about it, she recovered remarkably quickly from being completely frozen with a bronze pole in her neck, which had been bleeding for who knew how long. Tenten just raised an eyebrow. "Little weird, but okay," she muttered. "Kakuryu-chan is a Mizuchi, she just looks human at the moment," Naruto commented. "Her henge is really good, you know," he mused with an appraising eye. Kakuryu herself preened under the praise, tilting her head back with her eyes closed and a smug smirk on her face. The other two were forced to agree. I never knew Henj no Jutsu could alter the shape of the user so much. Tenten muttered. Probably a yokai thing. Karen shrugged. I've been able to do something similar since long before I became a yokai. Naruto retorted, if you're holding metal or wearing enough armor you can basically turn into a weapon. He bragged. Tenten blinked. Naruto-kun, and Madano, the Enko himself, is famed for that ability. How did you figure that out on accident? Her voice increased in pitch with each slight pause until it was steadily raised towards the end. Oh, well, maybe he just pours a lot of chakra into his hench. Naruto assumed with a shrug. Yotan. Kakuya interjected, Naruto no Dana's chakra is very physical, yang nature. She explained. Karen blinked. How did you dash? I mean, you're right, but how do you know that? She asked. Naruto no Dana has a lot of stamina, replenishes that stamina quickly, and most telling is his vitality and how quickly he heals. Kakuryu explained as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. Also, have you seen him perform any kind of jutsu that involves chakra? She asked rhetorically. Fair points. Karen conceded. Well, that's interesting, so how good actually is that ability? She asked. I heard Enmadano turns into this super hard bow. Tenten gushed. Just getting hit jars my focus and knocks me out of it. Naruto revealed with a shrug. I mostly just use it to turn myself into a Fuma Shuriken and throw myself to get some distance. He explained. Someone needs to teach you Shunshin. Tenten pointed out. That aside, it might be a matter of practice then. She continued, what if you just needed to get used to hitting things like a weapon? Why would I want to put my training into that when I'm trying to learn ninjutsu? Naruto asked incredulously. Because it would be cool. Tenten argued in a dreamy tone. Oh, she jolted to a more energetic tone. And you could totally make up fancy new weapons that incorporate any weapons you have into your henge. She continued with an eager grin. Naruto sighed and rolled his eyes, but his lips quirked upwards. I'll think about it, he compromised. But for now I've been trying to learn a bunch of other really useful ninjutsu. He finished smugly, arms crossed. Like flight. Kakuya piped up, copying Naruto's crossed arms. That too. Naruto agreed as the two kunoichi wondered how the blonde was learning to fly. Chapter 38, Coastal Escort Mission. Sasuke was surprised at how glad he was to be back in Konoha. He could do without Naruto gawking at him. You're actually having lunch with Sakura-chan? The blonde asked, surprise evident on his features. Kakuya just looked vaguely confused for a moment before she turned her attention to the tea shop the genin of Cell 7 were at. Kakashi went to go give the report. Since he figured you'd already reported on most of the details anyway, he let us go. Sasuke excused, but he could tell the Uzumaki wasn't buying it. Sakura's self-satisfied smile was not helping. I wanted onigiri with tomato chutney and this place sells it. I'm not buying anyone, except for myself, food. The boy grumbled, and the kunoichi got the hint that she might not get to have lunch with him anymore if she kept looking too happy about it. Kakuya looked at the menu with a confused furrow to her brow. None of this food has meat? She asked. It's a tea shop, not a barbecue place or food stall. Sasuke retorted. There's poached chicken on one of the sandwiches though. He added. It is covered with leaves, and I do not trust that sauce. Kakuya complained as she turned away from the tea shop. Naruto decided not to tell Kakuya that the noodles and ramen were usually made of flour. Alright, well, we're going to go see Danzo-sensei, then I'll probably see you guys again with Jiraiya-sensei, or instead of Jiraiya-sensei. He mused. That depends on Kakashi's whims. Sasuke sighed. Don't you have enough, sensei? He asked. I will take all the help I can get. Naruto answered earnestly. That's fair. Sakura nodded in understanding, especially since it really did seem to be working for Naruto. He was the one of them who actually made Chunin after all. More importantly, where are your good clothes? She asked. Naruto frowned and looked down. He didn't have a mission, but he still wore his flak vest and had taken to wearing it over his undershirt from his Ryoshi outfit. I'm wearing them, he retorted. He was even back in his easy-to-put-on ninja sandals. Orange pants and jacket again though. Sakura whined, "Ugh, you looked like a real chunin in Yuki no Kuni, and now, well, I guess the jacket over the flak vest look sort of works, but the leather was way more fashionable." She finished with a morose sigh. "I can't just wear leather every day for training." Naruto responded dryly, "I like to be comfortable." He added he had to wonder just how much of Sakura's outfit was impractical after that rant. "I'll still wear the extra armor for missions." He added. "So, how has your training been?" Sasuke asked, curious since while he had been stuck on a boat he'd gotten a good handle on a handful of Suiton no Jutsu. "I learned to shoot wind blasts, and then I learned to make a bigger Rasengan which let me shoot bigger wind blasts." Naruto answered proudly. He'd been doing chakra control exercises too, but he didn't think those warranted mentioning. "I have been teaching him to fly." Kikuria added, "I think it will take a while." Sasuke raised an eyebrow at the Mizuchi before he turned his attention to Naruto. "Well, 3 whole elements between us. Kakashi is right-on and knows more. We've seen him use plenty of Doton no Jutsu too." He mused. "We've basically got the elemental Janken sorted." "Oh yeah, Kakashi-sensei used a bunch of Suiton too," Naruto recalled. Sakura's eye twitched. "I have a Suiton affinity. Kakashi-sensei taught Sasuke-kun and I some pretty useful ninjutsu." She bragged quickly, surprisingly eager to get in on the competitive spirit. Naruto pouted. "No fair, I still haven't gotten Mizu Bunshin working," he grumbled. Kikuria furrowed her brow. "Wait, you can make Bunshin out of water too?" she asked, and the Uchiha became particularly aware of what the classification of this particular yokai was. "I think you can make Bunshin out of anything if you can figure out the hand science," Sakura interjected. "Well, and a lot of other tertiary knowledge as well as built-up skills around creating Bunshin and a solid theory behind the ninjutsu." "Sakura-chan," Naruto began, "I have read those scrolls and you somehow managed to make inventing ninjutsu sound boring," he complained. Sakura flushed. "You can't just ignore the safety dash." She began to scold before she blinked. "Oh wait, you kind of can, huh?" She finished it like a question, so the blonde nodded. "Naruto seriously convinced him he was in Jigaku?" Kakashi asked. He had new concerns about the depths and new respect for his blonde student after learning that detail. "Just how bad is it down there?" "Bad enough to make that a very believable lie," Tobirama muttered. "I am still of the opinion we keep it locked down," he continued as he spoke up. "We may not be able to stop Naruto Uzumaki from going back and forth, but I caution everyone to keep a close eye on him and anyone interested in his blood," he finished. "What of the yokai?" Hiruzen asked with a raised eyebrow. Tobirama shook his head. "This is hardly the first time Konoha has contracted with yokai. Rashomon are far from normal gates." "Those things are alive," Tsunade snapped, more than a little perturbed since to her inspection they had not seemed alive. "Of course they are, that's why they can resist damage so much, they have their own defensive qualities," Tobirama answered. "I have no idea where they come from though, but Aniki implied they were once normal gates that just came alive." Jiraiya's eyes widened. "Actually that sounds kind of familiar," he muttered, trying to recall where he'd heard something similar. This aside, I have another mission already?" Kakashi asked. Tsunade nodded. "Sorry, but given the circumstances I need you to make sure a missive reaches Sunagakure no Sato safely," she explained as she handed him a scroll. "Deliver it to the village leadership specifically," she ordered. "I'm sure your team can handle AC rank under," Hiruzen began but paused to collect himself and hide a chuckle under a cough. "Chunin Naruto-kun's leadership," he finished. Kakashi sighed. "Sasuke is going to blow a gasket, and I won't even be there to see it," he lamented. "I'd take photos, but I'm off for a mission of my own soon." Jiraiya spoke up. "Speaking of, give us a progress report on your genin actually," he ordered. Kakashi blinked, or maybe winked, but given the context everyone assumed he blinked. "Progress report?" he repeated. "Your mission report mentioned you found out Sakura Haruno's Suiton affinity during the journey back, and given it was a boat trip took the opportunity to teach your genin some Suiton no Jutsu, right?" Jiraiya clarified. Kakashi recalled with a nod. "Yeah, Sasuke-kun was a bit annoyed to find out he, an Uchiha who doesn't actually know his affinity but uses a lot of katon, was slow to learn Suiton no Jutsu." He remembered. Sakura-chan however did great, her chakra took to water naturally. He praised, "Why?" "We're trying to figure out who to send into Tenzan with Naruto-kun." Hiruzen answered honestly, "I think after their next mission, I may introduce your genin to Enmadano." He revealed, no one commented on the fact that his own sons didn't want the contract as it was likely a sore spot for the old man. Kakashi winced. "Are you sure?" he asked. "Not to doubt you or anything, but Sasuke-kun is a little rude to be dealing with someone like Enmadano." He pointed out, "Also, I'm sure you've already all considered this, but there are not that many people who have actually gone to Tenzan, and most of them who are still alive are in this room." He added, wanting to stress the danger of the mountains. "Hanzo definitely went there." Jiraiya disagreed. "No doubt about it, that man was an Oni." Tsunade added, "But yes, it was considered that the short list of people who in recent history returned alive are all S-rank ninja." She confirmed, however some of them became S-rank after going there. Kakashi was distinctly uncomfortable. "I know I threw my rookie genin into the Chunin exams, but this isn't sink or swim with experienced shinobi watching out for their safety. Sasuke-kun may well die there." He reminded them, "I know Naruto-kun will be fine, but we still don't really know everything about that, do we?" he asked. "Enko-san is stable," Tsunade spoke up. "Despite having suffered addiction, and even withdrawals, to Naruto-kun's blood she managed to maintain a mostly professional air. I've personally seen to all her sick days just in case, and while I can say there are definitely side effects, Enko-san has managed to handle them surprisingly well." She continued. "What kind of side effects?" Kakashi asked. To his knowledge, Enko was the only one drinking Naruto's blood, but it was still concerning. "Thankfully no drastic changes like what Naruto-kun has gone through, so I'm certain he didn't just lick up some blood or get it in his wounds down there." Tsunade explained, "It might also be that Naruto-kun's blood having healing properties is a mix of the strange blood with his already present Uzumaki genetics." She pointed out, "Mostly the negative effects I treated were psychosomatic withdrawals from pain relief medication being suddenly taken away, which was a scary few weeks considering the looming threat of Orochimaru." She finished dryly. Most high-ranking ninja had been very alert at the time, but it had reached the point of jumpiness. "If they are healing properties we don't know for certain. The pain relief was because it was a temporary natural energy blocker." Jiraiya reminded those who already knew and informed those who didn't. "That sounds ominous," Kakashi muttered. "It is," Tobirama said. "Even this supposedly unnatural body of mine currently functions using natural energy. It is not on the level of senjutsu, but I have limitless chakra," he explained. "How does that work actually?" Kakashi asked. "Oh well, it's quite simple. The corpse inside me is encased in all this fuin paper that makes up my form." Tobirama began. To the horrified expressions of the listeners, the corpse is preserved by an array while a different array floods the corpse with natural energy, which stimulates the Kirakuki thanks to another array which filters the natural energy back out. Since I have no idea how to perform senjutsu," he explained. Tsunade looked green. "I still can't believe you invented that." She shuddered. Hiruzen could relate to her plight even though he had known about it. Enko stared down Kakuryu. "Naruto no Dana is dreaming, no Ningen allowed," the Mizuchi said sternly. The Tokubetsu Jonin raised an eyebrow. "I am his beloved sensei," she argued. "Naruto no Dana has a mission with those other Ningen who were with him when I met him, tomorrow," Kakuryu retorted. "The Kakashi Ningen said as much," she clarified. Enko had not expected the yokai to be an obstacle, but then she frowned as she considered what she was doing. "All right, fine, I'll teach him some other time," she said as she turned away. Her frown deepened. A moment later she was on the rooftops, and then moments later she was entering the Hokage Tower. "Enko-san, is there a reason you came here?" Tobirama asked pointedly, startling the kunoichi. "I wish to report I felt an ache in my neck. Given what that's a sign of, it felt important to report." Enko answered straight-backed. The night aim just seemed to encourage a bit more discipline. "Is there a reason you went to Naruto Uzumaki's apartment first?" Tobirama asked, and the woman's eyes widened with alarm. "So you did go there first, I wondered," he mused as he narrowed his eyes at her. "I am an accomplished censor. I will keep watch for Orochimaru while Saru is retired and Tsunade-chan rests." He assured, however, you are the most concerning," he pointed out. Anko stiffened, sweat dripped down her neck. "You are an addict," Tobarama interrupted. "Not that you can be blamed in this situation, but you do not fully understand what you're doing," he warned. Anko scowled. "You think I haven't had nightmares?" She snapped before she realized what she did and shrank back. However, the night aim just raised his eyebrows, so she continued. "I was so worried I was going to kill him, that I was becoming some kind of monster that was going to eat him or something, and I joked it off, but—" She trailed off. "I was relieved to hear he could not die," she revealed. "I assure you, whatever he is, they died perfectly fine," Tobarama rebuked. "They just don't stay dead, and you were right to be afraid. Even with Tsunade-chan assuring me you haven't changed much and most of your symptoms seem psychosomatic to her, I will be keeping an eye on Naruto Uzumaki and everyone close to him, especially those of you who have tasted his blood. Unfortunately for you, that list is just you, Anko Mitarashi," he finished with a dangerous look in his eyes. Anko was a little worried the man might just kill her just to be safe. What he said shook her enough that she doubted she'd be able to stop him even if she was physically capable of surviving against him should he turn hostile. Whether or not the night aim truly considered it or not, he did not act on it, and despite the oppressive atmosphere, Anko never felt killing intent specifically. She wondered if that was a good sign or just a testament to Tobarama Senju's self-control. "I would never betray Konoha," Anko promised. "You might not, but the body is but a weapon. Even my body and abilities were momentarily turned against Konoha," Tobarama retorted. The kunoichi didn't have a response for that, but he didn't give her much time to think of one. Dismissed. Tsunade stared at the glass prison encased with Fuinjutsu tags. "I think you should have gotten Jiraiya for this," she commented. Shibi Aburame adjusted his shades. "He is not Hokage-sama, and we're confident the glass walls will hold. But these are the Kikaichi Shino-sen claims drank of Naruto Uzumaki's blood." He introduced the oversized beetles that were much bigger than anything the Aburame normally used. "That was over a month ago. Kikaichi do not generally live this long. Prognosis?" he asked. Tsunade pursed her lips and crossed her arms under her chest. "I have no idea. Keep them quarantined. Don't risk letting them out for anything," she ordered. Then she considered another issue. "Also count them. And don't assume any of them are ever dead." "Did any of them die?" "No, every single one of the 32 Kikaichi, and there are those who got a small taste of Naruto Uzumaki," Shibi answered plainly. "Shino-san would not have missed any, I assure you," he added with confidence in his son. Tsunade couldn't help but find the detached and overly polite mode of speech a little too dry, but she nodded. "Good, keep an eye on them," she repeated. "We're still investigating the exact details of what this does. But I'm glad Shino-san and you had the sense to do this to the—" She hesitated to say infected. She did not want to think of Naruto as ground zero for something awful. Anko was still mostly fine, a little erratic, but her behavior was understandable given the situation. "The strange effects of Uzumaki blood," she finished a little lamely. "Naruto Uzumaki is quite the strange one, isn't he?" Shibi mused. "I will caution my clan against testing his blood in future, and warn them to report any long-lived Kikaichi who have had contact with him," he promised. Tsunade sighed with relief. "You're sure Shino is okay?" she asked. "With all due respect, Tsunade-sama," Shibi began, "Aburame have our own Irian ninja and would prefer to keep such checkup behind closed doors." His voice was still even, but the Hokage could tell she was not welcome to inspect Aburame physiology. "I assure you we take our health seriously. Even minor mutations unrelated to Uzumaki among our Kikaichi are quarantined and inspected to ensure they are only beneficial." Tsunade nodded. "Thank you, then I'll be returning to my duties," she said to dismiss herself before she turned to leave. Sasuke Uchiha didn't think Naruto should be in charge of the mission. Some might argue he was just being competitive, but he would argue right back that Naruto started it by wearing a smug smirk ever since he'd learned that he would be acting commander for their next C-rank mission. That Kakuria had been given a Konoha Hittite, which had been attached to the scarf Naruto gave her, just made them look almost like a four-man cell. This made Sasuke even more annoyed since Naruto was the one in the flak vest and the long leather jacket that he had to privately admit was very cool. Even Sakura had confessed it looked good. The Hittite was mostly to keep up appearances, and it wasn't like Kakuria was the only contracted non-human to be given a Hittite. Sasuke just assumed there would be more involved to giving a yokai the symbol of a village ninja, but being able to perform henge without hand signs and breath fire, also without hand signs, likely contributed to that. So what's with the hat? Sakura had asked while they traveled. It came with the outfit, Naruto answered, which left the genin wondering where he'd gotten all that leather. I didn't like it at first actually, he continued, but it keeps the blood and sun out of my eyes, you know. Sakura peered at Naruto's eyes. They're blue again, but they're more light-sensitive, she asked. While shaded, the blue eyes weren't particularly slit, but she could tell they were not normal if she studied them, more oval than round, as if ready to become slits. Naruto's only response was a shrug. The other side effect of the hat he hadn't considered was that it pushed his growing blonde spikes down to frame his face a bit more. Sasuke decided not to mention that the outfit made it more obvious that Naruto was the son of the Yondaime Hokage, or that the Uzumaki had somehow become the tallest of the three of them by a small margin during the month they'd been separated. Instead, he focused on the mission. The mission should be a simple affair. Some ancient tradition in a port town called Degarashi had become a competitive race. One side was rumored to hire ninja to guarantee success, so the other side had hired Konoha to ensure things were fair. Cha no Kuni had no ninja village of their own, so the Uchiha figured it would be easy enough. Sasuke's thoughts had apparently jinxed it, because on the way to Degarashi they stopped at a tea shop, where Kakuryu again complained about a lack of meat on the menu before she left to presumably go eat some wild animal. Sakura sat down and ordered dumplings and tea, so Sasuke got himself some onigiri. Naruto looked torn between the red bean jam soup or chasing after Kakuryu to make sure she didn't cause them problems. In hindsight, Sasuke wished he had, because some young teen, barely older than them, had proceeded to mouth off about how spoiled ninja villages must be in times of peace to throw a tantrum over something like a lack of meat. Naruto had not taken kindly to that. What was that, punk? The blonde asked, clearly incensed. Oh, scary, don't like what I have to say, Shinobi-san? Sasuke was pretty sure this guy had a death wish. For a brief moment he wondered what Kakashi would do, then he brushed that useless thought aside and turned a glare on the civilian. So you can see we're shinobi, and you still antagonize us? He asked. For all you know, we could be searching for a target that matches your description, he threatened. The civilian, a brown-haired, brown-eyed boy with a slight tan, looked startled. Why would ninja be hunting someone who looks like me? He asked. Sasuke narrowed his eyes at the stammer. He was pretty sure he was not imagining signs of a guilty conscience. Well, if you're a civilian, then it's really none of your business, the Uchiha said stiffly. His eyes narrowed further when the boy winced and left as if fleeing the scene. That was suspicious, right? Naruto asked, and Sakura nodded, but they all assumed the boy probably had nothing to do with the mission. However, when the bill came and had more than they ordered, Sasuke was able to guess before they were even told. Some civilian teenager had dined, dashed, and left ninja with the bill. The Uchiha wondered if the boy wanted to die or just didn't understand what a ninja was. We're not paying for him just because you took him at his word that we'd cover his bill, Sasuke told the tea shop staff bluntly, who were upset and insisted they'd be describing the Konoha shinobi as well when they reported the crime. Sakura supposed she couldn't blame them. Having one guy say his friends would pay for his food and those friends backing out was probably a common scam. Sasuke refusing to pay also made Konohagakure no Sato look bad, but she supposed it was just a tea shop in a land that had none of their own ninja. However, when they left the tea shop and informed Kakuryu, whose lips were red again but not with lipstick this time, the Mizuchi found it hilarious and had laughed so hard she doubled over. It's not that funny, come on, Sasuke insisted impatiently as he urged them after the tea shop dasher. Kakuryu recovered enough to follow after the three shinobi. Soon enough they found the boy they were looking for. Sasuke got ready to close the distance and take him out when Sakura called out, "Hey you! Get back here!" Surprisingly, the teen did slow down and look back, but only enough to remove leg weights. Sasuke got a sense he had already seen such a thing, so he was relieved when the weights did not kick up nearly as much dust as the ones worn by Rock Lee, but they were still heavy enough that the supposed civilian was able to put on a burst of speed. Sasuke was pretty sure he could catch up, but he was caught off guard and surprised because the speed required to catch up would stress his own body. He mentally cursed himself because the moment hesitation was enough for the older teen to gain a head start. I don't think that guy was a civilian, Naruto commented dryly. He can't keep that speed up forever. Sasuke growled, this idiot, imagine if he pulled that with someone like Zabuza. He pointed out. Are we not going to eat him for his crimes? Kikuria asked with a furrowed brow. No. Naruto denied. I don't want to eat humans, he said simply. Kikuria nodded, fair enough, they usually taste bad. She thought she was agreeing, which counted for something. Both Genin decided not to comment on the inhuman discussion. Sakura was unable to hide her pale green complexion, however. Sooner than they expected, the cell of ninja and one yokai caught up to the absurdly fast civilian. Sasuke glared down at the teenager as he appeared on the branch above him in a burst of speed. The Uchiha decided to ignore that they'd apparently only caught up because the older boy had tripped. You really must have a death wish, talking so much rot and then trying to steal from a shinobi? He asked. How would you like to die? Sakura frowned. She hoped the Uchiha was bluffing, but if he was doing a very good job. Wadash? Wait, you'd seriously kill me over some bill? Isn't Konoha supposed to be better than that? He asked in a slight panic. Relying on a reputation of us being soft? Sasuke asked with a raised eyebrow. Don't you know anything about ninja? What is the meaning of shinobi? He grilled. Well, the etymology of the word is I mean, the boy began and cut himself off quickly. Look, surely I can just pay you. We didn't pay your bill, Sasuke interrupted. The folks at that tea shop were pretty pissed too, but they'll be giving all of our descriptions to whatever passes for law enforcement in Cha no Kuni. He explained. So I guess you'd better head back to the tea shop, he ordered. Naruto, you should send a bunshin to make sure he pays this time, he added. Sakura smiled faintly, glad that the Uchiha wasn't actually planning to kill the guy for skipping out on a bill no matter how rude and abrasive he was. Kikuria was less amused. You should cut off one of his hands too, she supplied. Sakura was pretty sure no land still used that as a punishment for theft. Some had even stopped using it as far back as the Sengoku Jidai. I'm not cutting off one, or both, of his hands. Naruto refused. That he felt the need to clarify and said it in such a flat tone informed the two genin that the blonde had likely had to deal with worse from the Mizuchi regularly. The teenage boy clenched his fists. Damn it, he grumbled under his breath, but he followed the Kage Bunshin back to the tea shop. Sakura sighed once the boy was gone. Honestly, knowing our luck, I half expected him to reveal he was a Hengyokai of some kind, she muttered. His scent was boringly human. He likely lives near the ocean and exercises frequently, Kikuria commented. Then she licked her lips again. Oh, he also dropped something in that tree when he fell through here, she noticed. Sasuke jumped up and retrieved a folding pocket knife, then he unfolded it. Idate. He read out loud before he folded it. Well, Degarashi is the only port around, so we'll just return it to him there as long as he pays his bill, he decided. Naruto frowned. Wait, I'm the Chunin, he realized. Sasuke raised an eyebrow. Well, are you going to take my advice then? He asked, knowing he could not technically order his teammate around changed nothing to the Uchiha. Naruto's frown deepened as he thought about it. I guess, I don't feel like sending another Kage Bunshin after him anyway, you know. He shrugged. Jirocho Wasabi, head of the Wasabi family, one of two families competing for who was the law in Cha no Kuni. Sasuke thought it was absurd for the daimyo to go along with such things, especially when one side was clearly worse than the other about how people were treated. Jirocho was the client though, and he was surprisingly polite and humble for a head of a family that was attempting to be law enforcement. Although his home in Degarashi was nice, it was not overly ostentatious, and he was even apologizing that the runner he wanted them to meet was late. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura all got a bad feeling about who the runner would be, and it was confirmed when the boy, the same one who dashed from the tea shop, arrived at the door. Idate-san, what was the hold-up? Jirochi asked. The teen opened his mouth to answer when his eyes fell on the Konoha ninja and they widened. Yes, Idate, the Uchiha began dryly. Do tell, he insisted. Jirocho's eyes widened at the venomous implication. Idate gulped. I left these ninja with a bill for the tea shop towards Hai no Kuni, he confessed. Jirocho sighed, then he bowed deeply to the Konoha ninja. surprising them and alarming Idate. I apologize for my underling, he said sincerely. Jirocho-san, you shouldn't bow your head to Dash. Idate began but was cut off by a glare from the gray-haired man. I would not need to if you conducted yourself better. Jirocho scolded plainly, and the boy winced. Sasuke scoffed under his breath. Naruto, he paid right? He asked, and the blonde nodded. Then it's fine, he said as he pulled out the pocket knife. Then he tossed it to Idate, who was startled and fumbled to catch it. Take better care of your own property before you worry about stealing from others next time, he scolded, not explaining where they'd actually found the knife. Idate looked furious but clutched his pocket knife as he glared pointedly away from the Uchiha. Naruto sighed. This is the guy we're protecting? He asked. I'm starting to hate escort missions, he grumbled. We do get them a lot. Sakura noticed. The last one went okay though, she reminded. The blonde Chunin even got an extra job and home out of it. Naruto frowned since to his memory his left arm got ripped off, not even cut off cleanly but torn from a broken joint and multiple cuts, and he'd been impaled. Although he had met Kakuryu and gotten a cool new weapon, it was a mixed bag. He compromised as he flexed the fingers of his left hand. It didn't hurt since then, but if he thought about it too much his left arm, down from where it had been torn, felt weird and he didn't like it. Kakuria clicked her tongue. So what is our mission exactly? She asked. Sakura was surprised the yokai was the one pushing the conversation back towards that. Although she supposed the Mizuchi did at least look like an adult, the Kunoichi assumed she could only shrink her form so much with henge or else she would be closer to the average size of the young ninja cell. Jirocho straightened up. My apologies, I should explain the race more in detail, he began. To start with, it began as a tradition when Raichu's jewels were dedicated to the Todoroki Great Shrine to halt a storm. What started as a simple tradition evolved into a competition where, every 4 years, whoever could dedicate the jewels first would be named Man of the Year. He explained. More recently, there has been a rivalry between my Wasabi and the Wagarashi. In order to stop brawls breaking out, we came to agreement under the daimyo to settle who would guard this port town every 4 years with this very race, he explained. So you think the Wagarashi hired ninja to kill your runner? Sasuke guessed. After seeing how fast Idate could run, the Uchiha could believe it. Most ninja needed chakra to reach those speeds, especially at their age. Even Lee technically used chakra for basic things, so Sasuke was pretty sure the person they were protecting likely had some kind of training with chakra. Jirocho shook his head. No, I think kill is the wrong word. But last time this contest was held we are quite certain they sabotaged us with ninja, he answered. Unfortunately there was little evidence to point the blame at the Wagarashi. But who else would hire a shinobi to poison our runner that year? He asked. Just because the poison wasn't lethal last time doesn't mean the ninja they hired this time will be as clean, Sasuke pointed out. Sakura nodded in agreement. Should we not just hunt down the enemy ninja? Kakuria asked, almost innocently in tone. Sakura gave the Mizuchi an exasperated look. No, Kakuria-san, we can't just go confronting unknown enemy ninja, she pointed out. Unfortunately we have to wait for them to make a move unless you can somehow smell exactly how many there are and where they are, she explained. Kakuria opened her mouth but instead of answering she tasted the air. Idate and Jirocho both stared at the inhuman maw of the yokai in the room with alarmed expressions. But then Kakuria frowned. Well, Sasuke began as if the sea serpent in henge had not just revealed her most inhuman trait. The number is likely 4. Ninja have been working in 4-man cells since forever, he pointed out. Kakuri joined the ninja in exploring the port and checking out the situation. However, the Mizuchi soon learned the race would be over the water, and she started staring at the ocean with a blank expression. Sakura sighed. Whatever you're thinking, we shouldn't use our affinity to water to sabotage the other runner. We were hired to keep things fair, not to cheat for Wasabi-san, she warned. Affinity? Kakuria asked as her brow furrowed and she turned to the pink-haired girl. Oh, you have an affinity, she recalled before returning a blank gaze to the ocean. No, I won't be joining you, she decided. Huh? Naruto asked. That was new to him. I will fly across to the island when the times comes and help from there. But I'm not getting close to Umi. That place is terrifying. Kakuria said blandly. That the yokai was scared of the ocean surprised them, especially since she was a supernatural sea snake. Naruto frowned. What's so scary about the water? He asked. It's not the water, it's what is in the water, Kikuria corrected. We can walk on water, Sasuke pointed out. I think Naruto is the only one who could actually run that distance on water though. Sakura grumbled. The Uchiha was tempted to disagree, but he wasn't entirely confident he'd be able to run that stretch with water walking involved either. I am not going near Ami, Kikuria repeated blandly. Sakura couldn't help but find it strange since not only was the yokai a Mizuchi, but a sea serpent that wanted to be an Oryu. Naruto frowned as he watched the waves warily. What is in the water? He asked. Kikuria tilted her head to the left. Good question. She gave her non-answer and refused to elaborate further. The Uzumaki Chunin decided to be extra careful about falling in the water. The Konoha shinobi team found little in the way of hard evidence that any ninja were out for Idate. The Wagarashi, on the other hand, did a good job of showing they should not be in charge when a group of so-called law enforcers tried to harass Kikuria for having her kimono too long. She could be hiding weapons. One argued, but his grin gave him away. Naruto interfered mostly so the Mizuchi would not incite a mob against her by hissing and baring her fangs or breathing fire. We're ninja, of course we're hiding weapons. The blonde retorted, I'm armed to the teeth. He bragged with a gesture to the scrolls in his bandolier and flak vest. I am only armed with my teeth, Kikuria added. The lead Wagarashi enforcer scowled, but Sakura spoke up. Whether the daimyo appointed you or you're a militia, you don't have the authority to mess with Konoha shinobi, do you? She asked rhetorically with her arms crossed. The threat wasn't particularly subtle, but it got the job done. Sasuke ignored the exchange for the most part, and window shopped while keeping an eye out for signs of ninja. There were some, but it was a port town after all. Cha no Kuni was neutral land to most ninja villages too, so it wasn't like they could investigate every person with signs of shinobi training or a developed Kirakuki. They might just insult some uninvolved ninja trying to enjoy a vacation. There were no attempts on Idate's life, much to the Konoha cell's mixed relief and concern, since it implied that if there were any other ninja they would make their move during the race. Kikuria left the morning of the race to fly over the ocean, however no one told her she should maintain human form. Sasuke and Sakura supposed they couldn't blame her. Maintaining that henge must cost at least some chakra, and doing both that and flying might just take too much focus or cost too much chakra over the distance she was going. Everyone else in the port who saw the giant flying serpent in the early morning were talking about it all morning though, which carried over to the start of the race where the people talked idly about if it was an omen. The announcer called the names of the runners, alerting the Konoha cell that the Idate they were protecting had the name Marino as well. Wait, like the proctor? Sakura recalled, which helped Naruto remember the man with the scars who proctored the first phase of the Chunin exams. That might be worth remembering for later. Sasuke muttered as he cast a suspicious glance at Idate. He noticed the older boy had signs of combat training and was fast, but almost all the Wasabi and Wagarashi had some combat training. Thoughts about Idate's possible relation to a shinobi of Konohagakure no Sato were interrupted when the race started, and instead of going for the boats at the docks, where the runners were supposed to take one to the island with the jewels, Idate took a sharp turn and ran up the coast. What is he doing? Naruto snapped. He'd gotten slightly invested in Wasabi winning because he just didn't like the Wagarashi, and he assumed the older teen was betraying Jirocho. The Chunin raced after the runner. His team followed after as quickly as they could, but Sasuke was surprised that he wasn't able to actually catch up to the slight lead the blonde had given himself with the head start. Sasuke risked leaving Sakura behind and put on a burst of speed, and much to his irritation Naruto picked up on how he was doing it and put more chakra into his own steps. To the Uchiha's slight amusement, the blonde stumbled slightly at first from the sudden change in stride made by the application of chakra. The dark-haired genin vaguely wondered how similar it was to Shunshin no Jutsu as he tried to keep up with Naruto, an Idate running a path that went along a cliff edge with a bamboo forest on the cliff above to the left, and a mangrove forest to the right down another cliff. However, the Konoha ninja were alarmed when a Fuma shuriken flew through the air at Idate. Naruto leaped ahead, and with a few hand signs and a cloud of smoke he managed to catch up to and disappear with Idate, leaving behind a bamboo shoot that was struck by the oversized thrown metal star. Sasuke noted that it was not a standard log that was used and leaped up, stifling his surprise at just how much chakra that particular Kawarimi must have taken with the urgency that enemy ninja were after Idate, and for some reason they were ready for them along this path. Sakura caught up a moment later, although from the sweat and way she was panting she'd pushed herself to do so. Alright, given you got attacked by a ninja waiting for you, Naruto began as he set Idate down, I'm guessing you aren't betraying Jirochojiji? He asked. Idate scowled, of course not. The wind will be better further up the coast. I kept quiet about it to avoid a leak. He explained defensively. Sasuke narrowed his eyes at the rather military choice of words. I guess enemy ninja knew anyway. He added with a grumble. Enemy ninja with Fuma Shuriken. Sasuke pointed out, not that it was particularly significant since there were a few hidden villages that made use of them, albeit rarely. We need to hurry. I have a boat waiting up the coast. Idate said as he stood up, hesitating when Sasuke cursed. You should not have said that second half. Sasuke grumbled, Naruto, you should run ahead to make sure it isn't sabotaged. We'll protect Idate while you do. He suggested. He hoped the blonde got the idea. Naruto was more worried about the enemy having a Jonin around, but he hoped the enemy would try to fight him while he was alone, so he nodded on it. He agreed before rushing ahead and leaving an indent in the earth with his chakra. Sakura frowned with concern. Okay, so, if we're going to protect you, keep pace with us. She requested. She knew she would be no use going at the pace Idate had set to begin with.